こんばんは。私は株式会社トリマーズのティードと申します。日本語は全然下手ですので、英語でトークします。すみません。Hi, my name is Thilo and my Japanese is even worse than my English, so I'll do the talk in English. Today I'd like to show you a file I wrote last weekend. It's called Spidernomic. Before that, I'd like to talk about a few things I like. First of all, I like bootstrapping process. I think it's very interesting that when you're building a complex system, you're starting with some lower level tools, but as soon as you get going, you stop using these lower level tools and work with the tools that you just built. So a good example is Emacs. Emacs, the core is written in C, and part of that core is a Lisp engine. And the actual text editor functionality is not written in C, but written in this Lisp. I also like self-hosting systems. So after this bootstrapping phase, eventually, the higher level tools, they can become complete enough to host themselves, and they can completely throw out the lower level tools you started out with. For example, compilers. A good compiler should be able to compile itself. And this situation, I think, offers a solution to the chicken and the egg paradox, where you always need to wonder which came first, the chicken or the egg. And looking at how compilers work, I think it's obvious that the first chicken hatched from the first egg, but this first egg was written in assembler. I also like self-modifying programs. For example, there's the Smalltalk Runtime. I don't know if people have used that. In the Smalltalk Runtime, everyone is living in a big virtual machine that the whole state, including the memory of the machine, gets serialized and made permanent on disk. And there's no real distinction between the operating system, the application programs, the configuration, and the user data and all that stuff. And there's also no real difference between the development environment and the deployment environment. It's all very blurred. It's kind of interesting. Or another much smaller example is TiddlyWiki. That is a simple wiki system written completely in JavaScript and contained in a single HTML file. So you can use this HTML, the JavaScript inside there, to edit the HTML file itself in a browser. You don't even need a web server. If you want, you can, you can edit it locally and pass it around by email or something. And what's interesting here, too, is that you cannot only edit the content because it's written in JavaScript, and that's a dynamic language. You can also change the code. Like you can add in macros or new formatting rules or stuff like that. Another thing I like is games, and especially games where the players can change the rules during the game. One of my all-time favorites is a game called Cosmic Encounter. That is a board game for, some people like it too. It's a board game for 3 to 6 players, and every player has a unique power to bend the rules in a certain situation. So depending how many players you have and what combination of these powers come together, you get some really wild results sometimes. And this game was very influential in the game designer community, like Magic the Gathering, which I guess many people know. It's been very popular a few years ago. It was heavily inspired by Cosmic Encounter. I also like a game called ParaGnomic. Gnomic is a game in which the rules of the game include mechanisms so that the players can change the rules dynamically. This is usually done by voting on those rules. This game can be played completely offline by meeting in a room and taking some notes, but because it usually takes a long time to play it, and you have a large number of players, the internet is at least used for the communication channel. Like you can play this very well on mailing lists, where you get the archive of everything that happens automatically, or on blogs. And there's also a version of Gnomic called ParaGnomic that's written, obviously, in Perl. This is a completely automated version of Gnomic. It is implemented as a collection of CGI scripts. And the players can change the rules by changing the CGI scripts that actually run the game. So a move that the player can do would be to propose a patch to the CGI scripts. The players then vote upon these patches. If a patch gets applied, the CGI changes. You can win the game by making the system create a certain file which contains your name. Of course, the problem with this whoa.